Well, hey there, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Article 3 of the series here with Will. We're excited to be back talking a little bit about coaching in this article. Will, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Not too bad. I see the beards coming in nicely.
Yeah, I guess I could say the same to you. I,
Yeah.
I don't know how to maintain it though. I don't have that fresh maintenance look that you have.
It's good for the fall, you know. It's a fall look.
I'll
Well,
just let it go.
that's right. As you guys know, this series is presented by Shaping Our Appalachian Region. We're a nonprofit dedicated to transforming lives and communities across Eastern Kentucky here through meaningful employment and economic self-sufficiency. We've been walking through this series a little bit with you, Will, but maybe for anyone who's new that's watching, give a little bit of your background, a little bit of ERC, what you all do, so they can kind of know a little bit of your story.
Sure, and I've said it a couple times, but I'm an Economic Recovery Corps fellow, and it's an inaugural program. They just started it, and I was the first cohort, but they got some EDA funding, and the International Economic Development Council, or IEDC, manages it along with several other national partners like National League of Cities, the National Association of Development Organizations, National Association of Counties, a couple of private entities, a couple of other national partners as well. But they all got together to think about how they can provide more capacity to underserved areas. And the idea was to find, they chose 65 fellows to go to 65 host organizations or host sites, kind of underserved areas to provide that capacity, mid-career professional, help bring in expertise into that region. And I just happened to match with SOAR. So I'm originally from Eastern Kentucky, like I've said many a times on this um, series, but it gave me an opportunity to come back home, kind of a boomerang story. And there's no better place I'd rather do this type of work than what I always have considered home.
That's great. I know we're all happy to have you as the fellow working with us, and it's been great doing the series so far and letting you share a little bit about what you do, and then also what the Runway program is doing with all of us here in Eastern Kentucky. This article is titled "The Power of Coaching." So, why human navigation is economic infrastructure. That can sound maybe a little intimidating or some like big words at first, but I really enjoyed the article, especially just the concept of coaching in general. You know, come from a sports background. Maybe you've had good coaches, bad coaches. I think everybody
Yeah.
has an idea when they hear that word in their head. You know, what is a coach really? But maybe just dive into that a little bit. Kind of what inspired the article a little bit for you. I'm just kind of curious there.
Sure. I think the series of articles previously, or the last couple of articles, have kind of been much broader in a sense, meaning explaining kind of workforce development in general, how it relates to economic development, how policy should be reimagined or reinformed in regards to workforce development and kind of that connection there. I know in the last article a little bit or a lot of it about the EKY runway program. And this kind of dives into the nuts and bolts in that, like kind of the true heartbeat of the EKY runway program, what we think really makes it stand out. And that is not only the whole human approach that I've talked about before, but really that idea of navigation, that idea of what we refer to as coaching, you know. And when we refer to coaching in this article, it's not just, we have empowerment coaches, we have peer mentors that both walk along with the clients, but it's not just about those coaches. It's more of a coaching model system. You know, they are combined with training plan coordinators, they're combined with uh, digital navigators, with other people throughout our staff that work with clients to help build stability before they even think about meaningful work. And so when we talk about coaches, we're really talking about that network of individuals that help coach that person or that client that comes to us that is completely out of the labor force, coaching them, supporting them, holding them accountable, so they can, one, become stabilized, two, have that belief not only in the system, and we'll talk about that, I'm assuming a little bit more, not only in the system, but in themselves, to help drive themselves, their family, their community, but also on that career path to meaningful employment.
Absolutely. I really liked at the start of the article there, you had a line about people don't go through like systems, they go with other people. I think that's a great just way of describing kind of coaching and maybe in general for a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. But maybe dive into that a little bit. What drives people to reattach to the labor force? I know a lot of that you've hit on is coaching is this big key point to kind of all that process. Maybe just unpack that a little bit for everyone.
Yeah, well, you kind of hit on it a little bit when you talked about the system. You know, we've always, when we're talking about getting people finding employment, finding opportunity, talked about we talk about the training piece, we talk about the opportunities a lot. We also talk about the system. In reality, the clients that get to us, 25 to 54 that have completely fallen out of the workforce, the system was never built for them. The system is built for individuals that have already propelled themselves forward or already have advantages over other people or less or misinformed people that are less fortunate than others or have had barriers throughout their lives. So the clients that get to us, the system was never built for them. So it's hard for them to see a system that one works but that too uh, is a direct pathway for success for them. And so when we're talking about what drives reattachment, it's not just about those training opportunities, how much schooling you have, how prepared you are. It's really about navigation. And we really truly believe at the heart of that, really the heartbeat of what we do is coaching to help that person navigate through that system and drive reattachment back into a system that could potentially work for them rather than forget about them. I won't say work against them, but definitely a system that was not built for them, not created for them, and that is often just forgotten about them altogether. And so when we're talking about driving reattachment, that coach is really the most important piece, or what we feel like is the most important piece to success for a client that gets to us. That coach is not someone that's just going to throw out a list of resources and say, hey, go find these on your own. Our coaches, our peer mentors, our training plan coordinators, all of the above, they are right there with that individual every step of the way, not just handing them a list of resources, but walking along with them along their journey, whatever that journey might be. Like I said in the beginning, it's about overcoming those barriers. We'll help them get a driver's license. We'll drive them through the DMV to get that. We'll help them fill out applications. We will help them with, housing assistance if that's needed. All of the above, anything that they need to overcome barriers just to start to think about employment is really what a coach will do, is what that support network will do. And so when we're talking about what truly drives that reattachment, it's really that human component of navigating the system, that human component of a coach. And coach, like I described in the article, it's kind of interchangeable here. I'm just going to refer to the term coach, but it could mean the peer mentor, the empowerment coach, any the training plan coordinator, the digital navigator, all of the above. That really helps support that person, truly supports that person by walking along with them. I think I explained in the article a lot of our individuals that work in as an empowerment coach or a peer mentor have walked in the same shoes as some of our clients, and so they know the challenges that these clients are trying to overcome, and they can help them even more so navigate the system and drive that reattachment.
I love that idea of the of human navigation. I think that's a big thing from anytime any of us are dealing with something, you're calling a company that something's wrong and you get a robot, right? And everybody hates that. And so actually having a real person to like help you. It sounds so simple, but it's so profound. So looking into the EcoWire Runway program specifically, maybe give us a little bit of just kind of a walkthrough of what coaching looks like, maybe for a client. Obviously, I know it's a lot different depending on the circumstances for each person coming into the program, but just maybe just kind of a rough overview of what some of those coaching roles look like and what that might look like for someone that's joining the program.
Sure, and really, one of the most important thing our coaches do in the beginning is helping that person just take that first step. That can be the hardest challenge to overcome for a lot of our clients. It's not that we have a lack of resources, and I probably said this a time or two in previous interviews, but it's not that we have a lack of resources in Eastern Kentucky. It's that the system is so hard to navigate. A system, like I said, that wasn't set up, wasn't created for these individuals that they don't even know where to start. And so when we first find a client and they fill out a form that suggests that they want to be a part of the EKY Runway program or just find out more about a little bit more about what it's about, they will be assigned immediately to an empowerment coach. And that empowerment coach is I almost think of empowerment coaches and peer mentors as the clinical and non-clinical side of this human support system. That empowerment coach really holds that person accountable, sets that person up for success, identifies the barriers. They'll first sit down with them in what we refer to as a discovery call to really identify what barriers they need to overcome, what challenges they have, what direction they might want to take in regards to a career path or career development. But like I said, when they first get to us, it's about that stabilization. So that empowerment coach is going to help with that stabilization process and hold that person accountable every step of the way. And not just handing them a list of resources, but walking along with them for whatever they need. And they, at the same time, they will also be assigned a peer mentor. And that's, like I said, the empowerment coach is kind of the clinical side. The peer mentor is kind of the non-clinical side, kind of that human focused uh, peer support every day. They can call them and, after hours if they need support in that way. A lot of people that we um, clients that we have, it's really about reentry, and that reentry could mean justice involved, substance abuse, and so if they're struggling with some of those factors, they can reach out to that peer mentor who may have walked in the same shoes as them, that kind of have that peer-to-peer support there and help them through while the empowerment coach is holding them accountable. That peer mentor is really supporting them on the human or even the friend side if you want to look at it like that. We all have or you and I probably have parents that really helped us to navigate the system. And I kind of look as an empowerment coach and a peer mentor as kind of not necessarily as a parent, but that parental guidance, but also that friend guidance that just helping support that person in every way possible throughout their journey. Now, when they get connected to an empowerment coach and a peer mentor, and they find what may drive them, what their hopes are, what their dreams are, what their potential path for employment might look like, then they will be assigned a training plan coordinator to help further develop that plan, whether it be through training, credential training, upskilling, reskilling, school, if it's secondary education, college, whatever the case may be, in order to boost that person towards their career path or that career journey. Also, when they go about that, after they get that training plan coordinator and have identified that path, we talked about this upskilling. We have some internal processes that we can help train that individual with our digital navigators. We want to upskill the person. Everyone in this day and age needs digital skills, and we have that opportunity in-house to provide that upskilling, that digital upskilling for every individual that comes through. And so there's also assigned a digital navigator to help upskill them, to help find further opportunities for training, industry recognized credential training, which is really important for individuals that may not have a college degree, but really want to have the best opportunity for employment. And a lot of times it's those short credentialed or industry recognized credential trainings that might be a direct pathway into employment. And so we have some people on staff that can help with that, help with training, help with upskilling. So that's kind of the path or the process. And it does sound like a process, but what really I think sets us apart is that it's non-transactional. It's really human centered. It's that touch points, those touch points along the way. We're entirely supportive throughout the process of and are very aware of the needs and the challenges of the individual to help them. It's not a one size fits all, and it's a very, and as I described in the article, it's really, and this could be a blessing and a curse. It's really a slow process because we truly believe it's one person at a time. How can you scale that? Well, we honestly believe that it's more important to focus on that one person at a time than to just focus on the numbers and trying to get as many people as through as possible. If we can find meaningful employment for one person at a time, then that one can turn into 10. The 10 can turn into 20 to 50 to hundreds to thousands of quality support and quality meaningful employment.
What do you think
Is
makes coaching so effective too? Like I love when you're thinking about the one at a time approach, the human navigation aspect of it. Well, what is it that coaching has really been able to do for the runway program and then other programs like that that take more of this approach?
Yeah, I kind of hit on it a little bit of that one person at a time, but what makes it truly effective is not just focusing on the training, not just focusing on the opportunities, but really focusing on the fact that, someone is there for them, someone
Hmm.
believes in them, especially in Eastern Kentucky, where for a long time, we have been told that we are not worthy of work. It's really to reinstall or restore the dignity of work for these individuals. And so it's going beyond the transaction, it's going beyond the training, and like I said, it's really a slow process, one person at a time. Meeting people where they are is really important. We're not just sitting back and waiting for people to come to us. We're out in recovery centers. We're out in churches, we're out in government organizations, telling people what we're trying to do, but also just meeting individuals, meeting our clients where they are, which I think is a really an important aspect of the overall effectiveness of our program. And again, it's helping them, one, to believe in themselves, but also supporting them, meeting them where they are, really driving home that whole human centered approach to workforce development, which, to be honest, I think a lot of people want to, or I probably shouldn't say this, but I think a lot of organizations want to say that, but to truly do that, I think is what makes some organizations more effective when it comes to overall success.
I love for you to dive into. I know you share a little bit of a success story there in the article. Maybe just give people an example, or maybe the one in the article you mentioned, or if there's another one maybe you have in mind of just kind of how it's played out practically, maybe for one of our success stories with someone that we've worked with inside the program.
Yeah, I think the one in the article is really a good one, just to show like the trajectory and the uh, commitment, the time commitment that it takes for the client,
Hmm.
but also the overall journey of really relying on the support of the coach to help them see kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that the example in the article kind of points that out to where this individual really she was in recovery. She was without work for a long, long time. But really and it wasn't through her coming and seeing a job opportunity posted. It was really her coming in the beginning and just finding out that someone believes in her.
Hmm.
Someone is there to support her, and she truly um, relied on the empowerment coach and the peer mentor to help her through the process. And so once when she was when she was able to understand that there was training out there for her, that there were opportunities or pathways for her, she really dove in and dug into what we were trying to do for her. But it wasn't us, it was all her. It was really just us providing the support, helping her to navigate the system, helping her to understand the resources that are out there. And you can read in the article of how she turned out or how she's continuing to really dive in and dig in and further her career. But it's not just about the career as the example states. It's also about her family and about her community, which there are a number of hundreds at this point of stories that we could tell. I know one individual. I didn't really want to hit on the one in the story. You can read in the article, but I know another individual who he hadn't had his driver's license in 10 years. And because of that, he hasn't worked in almost a decade as well, at least not in a career that could not in a job that would could potentially become a career. And so he didn't have a license because he had certain things in his background, and he just thought he could never go back and get it. Through the support of our network, through the support of our peer mentors, our empowerment coaches, we helped him to understand, and we provided some in-house services that we have in regards to expungement services to get some things off his record. And 10 years later, in a short amount of time, in 3 months being in the EKY runway program, he took his driver's test, got his license, reinstated, is now driving because he got his license. He got a full-time job that is really truly not just an entry-level appointment. It's a job that is building upon his career, a career that he has always wanted. So that's just one small example of how our empowerment coaches, our peer mentors, our entire coaching network helps individuals. If we can just help one individual, sometimes just overcome one barrier, we can bring them back into meaningful employment. And that's been our North Star from the very beginning of this program, is that meaningful employment is really the key to prosperity for the person, the family, and the region.
I love those examples as the human navigation aspect. I think it really helps kind of put that picture into your mind of what that looks like practically. And now, what does that look like maybe on the employer side? If we kind of shift to the other side of the equation, what does kind of maybe changing the narrative around the hidden workforce, reattaching people to the workforce, coaching, all the stuff we've been diving into the past few series. What does it look like on the employer side of things?
Yeah, I think from the employer side, and I really enjoyed writing about this in the article, because when you think about coaching, you think about it from the client side. The coach is going to be helping the client, the coach is going to be there for support, and we all understand. You can kind of understand that, right? You can kind of get that part of it. Um, Maybe not to the extent that the article points out, but we can understand how we help clients. Well, we also help employers. Employers have been around, obviously, for a long time in the region, and there are opportunities out there. There may be less opportunities in our region than others, but there are employers out there, there are opportunities out there. But a lot of time when we're talking about reattachment, we're talking about our clients. These employers have always been, or synonymously been, hesitant to hire a lot of people that are trying to reattach,
Mhm.
for lack of a better term, to the workforce. And so there's this hesitancy on this second chance employment. Whatever the reason may be, they may think that this person has no resume, or there's some gaps in their resume. They don't really want to hire that person. And so we see our coaching network, our coaches, as kind of uh, a facilitator for the employees, or almost a vetting process for the employers, to help them, even to help them navigate. a system that may have been set up for individuals that are more prosperous or
Mm,
have more opportunities. And so it's helping the employer to even re-envision this system that I won't say is broken. It was just not set up for those second chance employees that we are trying to reattach to the workforce. But when we talk about employers, and we talk about our program in general, I truly think that the real victory, and I write about it in the article, the real victory is the retention piece. So it's not just about getting these employees into a job. It's not just helping the employer find someone to work. It's going beyond that and helping that person to maintain that job. Just because you get a job doesn't mean you still don't have barriers, you still don't have challenges. We're there after that initial employment to help them overcome their barriers, to help with the retention piece for employers. I mean, that is extremely costly for an employer. So it's a two-way bridge between the coaches and the employer, not only helping them find a good candidate. Like I said, when they first get to us, it's about stabilization. But then when they actually get to the point of employment, we're helping employers find that employee, but we're also helping that employer with the retention piece. You know, helping with that retention piece or just overall finding that two-way bridge between the employer and the coach. It helps reduce risk in the beginning. It helps with retention and helps that employer with onboarding. It helps economic development just get smarter. It's not just about the job anymore. It's really about the person. It's really about the workforce. It's connecting the workforce piece to economic development. Economic development has always started with, jobs and businesses. But now they can start thinking about the people side of things, that critical human infrastructure, like you
mm,
and I both referred to earlier, that could help drive truly inclusive growth in your region. When you talk about growth, we're not just talking about that person that just became unemployed but is actively looking for work. We're talking about those individuals that are no longer looking for work because they've just been detached or disconnected from the system altogether. So if we can have more inclusive thought in that regard, especially from the employer side, and have economic developers stop just thinking about the infrastructure like broadband and roads,
mm.
stop just thinking about the businesses themselves, and start thinking about the people that are going to be employed in those businesses. We can really help. Um, I don't know if it's chicken and the egg or kill two birds with one stone, but it's really about driving prosperity in your region. And we truly feel like the best way to do that is first focus on the people and the workforce to help them to create a workforce that's prepared and ready for employment. I think everyone, especially in our region, they want the same things as most any other region.
Mhm.
They want to be able, to work, find some meaningful work, provide for their families, provide for their communities. I think we all want the same things. And if economic developers can kind of think about things in a different way and really focus on the people first. That was kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but I think really refocusing our thoughts around the workforce first will go a long way to driving prosperity for regions.
No, that was great because that you basically answered the last question I had too, which was basically the economic development aspect of that. And so that's perfect. I think that's probably a good place to even look to wrap up from this article. Anything else on the economic development aspect of really seeing people as infrastructure? I just love the concept of that. I think that's just such a maybe it shouldn't be so counterintuitive, to us. Like.
Mhm. Um, I don't know. You can obviously read the article. I think there's a lot in there with that focus. I will say I just got back from the Aspen Institute um, economy conference where it was just focused on the economy. And when you think about that, I think in years past, they just started. So the Aspen Institute has the Aspen Institute Ideas Festival,
Mhm.
which is over a plethora of different topics, but they just focus on the economy. this time. And when you think about that, I think most people think about jobs.
Hmm.
They think about the private sector. They think about how we can build businesses. But when I got there, I quickly found out that a majority of the sessions were focused on workforce
Hmm.
and employee ownership. And so you can see how that paradigm is kind of shifting when it comes to thinking about the economy, thinking about economic development, how that focus is now on the workforce.
Hmm.
How can we build a better workforce for these businesses that we've always thought about when we think about the economy? So the economy is not just about making money. It's not just about the businesses. It's also about that person, that workforce, that person that we're trying to develop, but also, like I said, employment ownership. And so that inclusive growth within a community, if you can keep wealth within the community, you can help to build that wealth for that person, for the community, to maintain, that inclusivity within your own community. There were so many great things that came out of this conference in regards to just ideas. But I just wanted to touch on that just to show, like, when we think about economy, we're not just thinking about what we have in the past, and it's kind of shifting into that workforce piece.
Yeah, that is great to hear. And well, we thank you so much for hanging out with us a little bit today. We're excited to keep working through this series with you, and for the next article to come out again next month. As always, everyone, if you're interested in learning more about SOAR, you can check us out online at www.soar-ky.org. And we look forward to being with Will again next month. We'll see you guys.
Thanks, Trevor. See you next time.